Hi Jill, nice to meet you. Welcome here in the Netherlands at the second Dutch TCM Congress. You've been talking to us this morning, 1 hour straight on, about evidence-based acupuncture, or the evidence that we have. Can you summarize a little bit what you addressed this morning?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm Gil Barzilay. I'm a practitioner from Tel Aviv, and I'm also part of the ICCM, the International Chinese Community Medicine Congress in Israel, and the EBA itself, the organization, together with Mel Hopper-Koppelman and Sandro Grassa. I was talking today about evidence-based acupuncture because my background in research has led me into looking for and understanding and explaining and talking about evidence-based research in Chinese medicine, simply because I think that whether people like research or not, or know how to read it or care about it, it's probably the best and only way for us to get acupuncture into the mainstream in the Western world. So it's easy in China and Taiwan and Japan maybe, but in our countries, Europe, US, whatever, where Western medicine rules and pharmaceutical medicine rules, the only way to discuss it with authorities and make a change and make a difference is using research, and that's why you need to do it, but that's been done already, thank God for that. And you also need to know where to look for it and how to talk about it. And especially in today's world, we have a lot of opportunities, because even though Western medicine per se and pharmaceutical medicine rules, there are a lot of issues with it. The opioids are a good example of it. But statins are not doing great. The world of Shen, or depression and anxiety, is lacking medicines, and people are looking for alternatives. Cancer treatment is much more, and people understand it much more than just chemotherapy and radiation, but the day after. And so people look for alternatives, and the best alternative, even though I don't like the word alternative medicine for acupuncture, is with acupuncture, because it has the most robust evidence. So
the evidence is out there, as you showed us this morning, and there's many more proofs of existence out there that we don't even know about it. And especially a lot of practitioners don't know about the amount of evidence that's already there.
Yeah.
And so what I remember of your talk this morning, that we should be aware of it, that it's there, and we should learn how to communicate about it.
Yeah, so first of all, we should be aware of it. I think most people are not aware of it. I chose today only to concentrate on 5 articles. It was 6 or 7 actually, but 5 articles, usually for pain and migraine and oncology, simply because they're the most accessible, and also because that's the areas where Western establishment is looking for a solution, because there's a real problem. And the data is so rock solid for Chinese medicine already that not using it is almost a crime. So I think that it's best to at least know those that I showed, and read them to know more, because I only showed 1 or 2 slides of each one of them, just to be able to compare. And when people even tease you or tell you, it doesn't work, or this works better than this, just by looking at even the slides that I showed or the actual publications, you have already a wealth of information and tools for you to discuss. And also for patients who are asking for their friends and family and whatever, that are lying on the bed and being needled for whatever problem they have, and they ask questions, and they want to know if it works for that, or how does it work. These are, I think, basics. Just like we learn exactly where all the acupuncture points are and everything, we need to know a little bit. If you want to know more, you can always find ways to learn. If you really want to do research, you can do research, but you don't have to. But knowing the basics is like a basic chapter in our education, because talking and communicating about it is at least half of our job.
Very, very important, yeah. And we can find a lot of these research on evidencebasedacupuncture.org.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so that's a good starting point for people who like to get into it a little bit.
Yeah, so the EBA.org website has a lot of summaries that have been done according to different diseases or therapeutic areas. Have some videos. We do Facebook Live almost every week. We try.
Yeah.
And there are other places. But
Yeah. So recently there've been 2 articles in the Dutch mainstream media. One was about that acupuncture is being added to a lot of guidelines in treatment protocols. So a lot of Western medicine practitioners now read in their guidelines from that they can send somebody to, for example, an acupuncturist or chiropractor or whatever. And the other article was about the World Health Organization. So they are planning, or they already have done it. I thought that when I read the article that they still needed a voting about it.
No, so it was already, the chapter was already written, and now it's being tested by different clinics around the world. Yair Maimon's clinic is one of the one participating, in order to see that it's easy to implement, because from 2022 it's going to be implemented in theory in all countries. So until then there's time to work through the data, find that the diagnosis is manageable and that it's correct with the Western it fits in with the Western diagnosis, and it can be implemented in all this. But of course the WHO announcement is good for us in a way, even though it's going to make us do a lot more paperwork. We can't draw 5 elements and think that that's the way it is. We'll have to fill in the forms. But at the same time, it formalizes the medicine alongside Western medicine, and some of the skeptics don't really like it, and so they make funny headlines like pseudoscience and whatever.
That's a shame that it happens. And some criticisms say that, this is China's export policy. They're really pushing this in the WHO because the export of Chinese medicine is very valuable. To my opinion, China is a big country. They export a lot of stuff. I don't think it's a big value. It's a big number.
I'll tell you the truth.
I don't know.
For sure, there is a
exactly.
money issue there. The president of the WHO is Chinese, but if you consider the amount of money that pharmaceutical companies have invested over the years all over the world, and in changing treatment guidelines that I heard from Antoine talking to him earlier, that for example, even doctors, if in Holland, if they don't want to give statins to their doctors, they are going against the treatment guidelines. And if they go against the treatment guidelines, if something happened to the patient and they have a heart attack or whatever, they're liable.
Yeah.
So they invested so much money, because it didn't come out of heaven, to make treatment guidelines for almost every disease include only pharmaceuticals, that it's okay to have one time that someone uses their power and probably money to export. But I think it's also to export something that is good, because even I was on the other side as well, and I'm not against medications. I'm against medication when they're used incorrectly and forever.
Yeah.
So if there's a whole medical system there, acupuncture or Chinese medicine, that has so much to offer to so many people, it should at least be presented properly. Yeah. Whatever, it's individuals, they can decide if they want to go for drugs or homeopathy or acupuncture or naturopathy. I don't care, but at least be offered in an equal way. And so if China is using its power, I'm totally alright with it.
Me too. So you got a background in research. Can you elaborate a little bit?
I have a background from many years ago, 25 years ago, in cancer research from Oxford. That's where I did my PhD. And then I went to work for a pharmaceutical company on the education and then marketing for a drug for MS, for multiple sclerosis. Yeah. And then I quit in 2011.
Why?
Why?
You're making
to be
the
honest,
bucks you did.
no, I'll tell you. I was treated by a homeopath for something, and then it stopped working, and then someone told me go for an acupuncturist.
Yeah.
And then I went to that, and while during treatment, apropos communication, the guy was telling me that it's thousands of years old, and I should read this and I should read that. I started reading, and I said, genius.
Wow.
And I quit the company. Actually, I was very happy working on what I did because it's a drug for MS, and Chinese medicine can help with some of the symptoms, but it doesn't. There's no cure for MS even with acupuncture, and so I think this drug does well. But if I had to work, for example, for a drug for, I don't know, for cholesterol or for pain or whatever, opioids or something, I wouldn't be working. So I'm happy with what I did. There's room for everyone, but there's definitely more than one medicine. And so since then, of course, I'm enjoying the fact that I have knowledge in research, and I've done research and published myself in order to be able to read and communicate and teach about it.
That's a great combination. And thank God for your open mind, because it's not an easy step if you are so deep in a system that you can also be able to think in a different way. And that's what I stumble upon, that people are so in this Western mind view that they have a hard time just to let that all go and just have an open mind, like, okay, there's a new system, new rules, new words, like learning a new language. You need to be open for new grammar rules, or so what you did. And how was your first encounter with Chinese medicine, with liver wind, blood deficiency, whatever?
Very easy, actually.
Yeah? Okay.
I gotta say, I think I came to it, first of all, even though I was working for that company, I hardly ever used drugs, medicines. And so it wasn't so difficult for me to understand the system. I can't say that every syndrome, was like made sense to me, but some of them really, really make sense. Once you kind of not get attached, but kind of understand the system or the way of thinking once or twice, then you're like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, there are 2 or 3 syndromes that are even difficult for me to, like, even wind. You have to try to explain it to a patient if you want to. If they ask questions, it's not so easy. But when you understand the whole approach, and especially when you treat patients for pain and you explain to them that the body is one, and that I can treat the back pain from the abdomen and vice versa, because it's only 10 or 12 centimeters width, and it's the same body. We're not a butcher. We don't cut the body into different pieces. Then everything falls into pieces, and that's why some patients really like the explanations and the fact that there's more than just science to it. And science is not only blood tests, because people are used to, to just doing blood tests and come to you with, with the scales.
The body tells a bigger story.
Exactly.
in many different ways. Yeah. Are you a visual thinker?
A what?
A visual thinker. Do you picture situations in order to understand it?
I do, first of all for myself, and also because I like to try and find interesting ways to explain to patients. And also when I teach, because I teach research, you have to find creative ways to explain things, because if I look, I studied it for so many years and I did research myself, but if I come with that suitcase to the audience, they're never going to listen to me. because acupuncturists are holistic in their way of thinking, many of them. I'm not saying ignoring the different types of therapists, and so you need to approach it in a different way. And so if you come with a pure academic way, you might as well just throw a book at them and hope that they read it. So you have to find a creative way, you have to find analogy, you have to find pictures in order to make it visual, and then they say, it's not that difficult.
That's very good.
And then they want to talk about it themselves.
Okay, that's a good opening. We take this as a lesson with us, because each and every of us practitioners actually needs to engage in this communication thing with our patients, with doctors, with just any audience that we can get, in order to make it more mainstream, because a lot of people are suffering. A lot of opioid addicts that really
People are
need an
dying.
alternative.
People are dying.
Yeah, people are
Even
dying.
in Holland,
Exactly,
I
you
mean,
show the numbers.
Yeah. In the US, the numbers are crazy, but
Yeah.
even if you look at other countries in Europe, and when you look at the generations, so old people actually don't die because they die, but they die of other reasons and of
Eventually.
good health.
Yeah.
But from the opioids, it's the young ones
Yeah.
because they can't suffer through their pain, and the millennials, the 25-year-olds to the 34s, a lot of stress, a lot of pain, a lot of working hours, sitting, and they take combinations of things which kills even more. They take anti-anxiety, antidepressant together with the pain medication, and that's a recipe for disaster. So come for acupuncture.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very
and
much.
Herbs and whatever else does good for you.
Especially Tai Chi,
Tai Chi,
Get a calm
Qigong,
mind,
nutrition, look
Yeah.
at your lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this interview.
Thanks a lot.
And you'll be in Rotenburg next week
Yeah.
for also a lecture about research.
Yeah, that's a full day course.
Yeah.
Like that's from the basics to some more research. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe we'll meet there again. And
I hope we will.
Another time. Okay, great. Thank
All
you.
right.